How my strategy of not doing thumbnails on YouTube is working out so far. The short answer is it's not. The long answer is this. There was a strategy behind this. The strategy is this. If you do things, you eventually will become better at things, provided these things are things you can get better at. This is an assumption I just made. So when it comes to producing videos, I thought the most important part is not the editing. Of course, the editing is also crucial, but the thing is, what unit of time gives you over the long period, so over maybe the next year, the next years even, the biggest return on your investment in time. And I thought for creating videos, at least the way I wanted to create videos, basically sharing things I thought were worth sharing, that for this specific purpose, it was the best idea to concentrate as much as I possibly could on the production itself, not on the editing of the videos. So therefore, me talking for long periods of time would improve my talking, therefore would improve my presentation, therefore would improve my storytelling, therefore would improve me being able to capture the attention of an audience. Whereas if I concentrated on editing, so if I had, let's say, 10 hours, and out of these 10 hours, I produced 2 hours of video, so basically recording straight for 2 hours, and then, let's say, I wouldn't even set up the whole thing, even though that's also something, and so we just look at the proportion of recording time, straight recording time, and compare this straight recording time to the editing time. If I had a proportion of 2 hours recording and 8 hours editing, then the idea is that this would heavily skew the equation towards the editing part. I would become a very good editor really fast probably, but I also maybe would realize that this is again a contradictory point, because usually you now expect something negative, but that's actually something positive. If you edit yourself, you watch yourself again and again and again. This can also be a contradictory point. Why? Because if you watch yourself again and again and again, then eventually you will just have enough of you looking at yourself and you talking to a camera, and you will just think that you are ridiculous, I guess. This is an effect, at least that is happening to me, and I think is kind of happening to everyone who, first of all, or for the first times, records a video and looks at himself on video, and also his voice, or listens to his voice on sound, on audio. So now, what was the idea behind the strategy? The idea behind the strategy was to try to improve the most important skill, I thought, the most important skill when it comes to creating videos the way I would want in the future. And therefore, I concentrated heavily on just recording, setting everything up, of course, and then just recording. So now let's look what would happen. So we have 2 hours of recording and 8 hours of editing. Of course, you could edit these videos down a lot more, which would then give you the benefit of cutting out unnecessary things. But now let's compare this to the 2 hours of editing, or in my case, basically none hours of editing, because I try to record everything in camera, because you can also pause the camera often, at least on the phone. I can just pause. If I want to make a quick pause, or if I have to look something up, I can just pause in between, which makes it possible to record everything in one take, even though there is time passing in between the pauses, you could say. And also, if I ever happen to but if my phone battery ever happened to die, or my recording battery, so of my audio recorder, the battery also died, or I had a connection issue, I could still just use either the Windows built-in editor or this editor. Not this editor, but actually this editor on my phone, which is the Samsung Gallery Editor video editor. And this means I have native video files that are just one file. And this also makes file management so much easier. I would say this cuts down on 80 to 95% of all the file management, because you have one single file you then need to distribute to your different services. And you don't have to hassle around with alternative versions, and then you don't know which version it is. Therefore, you have to track the different versions in order for you to, in the future, then then be able to choose the right version without knowing what the right version actually is, because over time you tend to forget things. So now, how is it working out? It's not working out at all. And the problem is that within these videos, the only thumbnails I have are me talking like this, like this, like this. This is the most exciting it ever gets. And compare this to highly edited thumbnails. But this was also part of the strategy, because the strategy again is, if I am able to generate an audience by just recording these videos, then from the moment in time on, people are watching, I have exactly the right audience. Versus so think of audience as a big circle. All the people on earth are in this circle. And you want to actually target exactly the right people that are interested in the things you are seeing. If you now edit all the things together in the beginning, but eventually you want to target basically a different audience, because the audience for the edited videos is a different audience for the videos where you are just talking. Think of it as a kind of more podcast audience who also likes to enjoy watching basically the video feed live, but it's much more a podcasting style, because it's just me talking. So now the idea is, if you do anything in the beginning, you eventually down the line don't want to do anymore, then this basically targets the wrong audience. And if then somebody who is more into 2-minute, 5-minute videos where it's very edited down and maybe also with graphics and things like these, and then you change your style towards a 50-minute talking style, then a person who originally subscribed will consider unsubscribing, because you are not doing the content anymore that he subscribed for. And that creates the problem of consistency with the content. So therefore the idea is this: if I make basically the leanest in terms of, so Eric Lees, a business thinker, you could say, coined the term the lean startup. And the lean startup means that in the beginning of a startup, or also things like a YouTube channel, not specifically mentioned by Eric Ries, but much more I kind of bent this concept around this creation of videos. What he says is that you want to keep things lean in the beginning. You want to keep things easy in the beginning. This means, for example, subscribing to things rather than buying things. Maybe having a subscription for a camera rather than buying the camera already. Of course, it could also make financial sense maybe to buy the camera straight away. But the idea is keep it lean, because then you can very flexibly change in between different options. For example, you can very easily upgrade to a better camera the next month if it's just leased. You can also lease phones, for example, and therefore you avoid having to have the cost of the whole phone, so maybe $1,000 at this point in time, because phones are very expensive, at least good phones. Then you avoid this cost, and therefore you keep your costs down, you keep your overhead down, and therefore you are able to experience the mistakes and the learnings. So basically you are able to make mistakes much easier. If this is your timeline of your startup or your YouTube channel, then you are able to experience these mistakes you would eventually have to make at a much earlier point in time. And this is also what I wanted to kind of implement with these kind of videos, because I wanted to all the mistakes, so basically the crappiest versions of these videos I would ever produce should be in the beginning and not somewhere in the middle where I ran out of editing time or I decided to cut down on the editing. I can still edit in the future. This is, of course, an option, but what I am saying is that the quality over time should never go down. It should only go up. And by me being the most important quality controlling variable, because it's just me talking, and over time, the more I talk in front of a camera, I guess, of course, that's just an assumption. And if I then have not recorded videos for 2 months, then probably the quality of this video will go down, or these videos will go down. But the assumption again is, over time, if I keep producing videos like these, it will only help me, not only in also, that's also a side effect, not only in personal conversation, also in social relationships, because I am able to make points better, I am able to communicate better, or also listen better. It depends, but not only in this specific regard of my life, but also, of course, and obviously, in this part of my life where I still plan to record videos about things I think about things I heard about, which are maybe interesting to share. And so the idea is that the main variable that controls the quality of my videos is me. And that also gives me all of the responsibility. I cannot blame anybody else or anything else, but if I don't even make thumbnails, then the only way to actually get to an audience, the only way to capture an audience is by speaking better. Therefore, I constrained all the different variables that are out there, video quality and things like these. And video quality, for example, I try to keep at a medium standard, I guess. It's not the best quality in the world. I record these videos on my phone, but I do record on a kind of good audio device and also with a softbox. So therefore, this is something I can probably always do, but I also do occasionally videos where I just go around with my phone and record things. But that's not the point. The point is that the most important variable is me talking. And the better I get at talking, the better these videos get. And therefore, over time, if I keep producing these videos, then the quality should go up. And every person that subscribed in the beginning or saw a video in the beginning and would see something later on could only be surprised that the video quality is now better. So there's kind of a general rule in business. You always want to basically over deliver. So there is an expectation. So for example, if you go somewhere or if you bring your car to a car service and then they say in 3 days you can have your car back. And then in 3 days time, you actually have your holiday, for example, and then you go there and they say, oh no, it's still not ready. So your expectation was 3 days, but they didn't fulfill your expectation. Therefore, you won't be satisfied by the service. So therefore, in terms of quality, if you think of the service of the quality of the service, you probably will not rate them very well or very good. But if you compare this to, they say it's 3 days, but then after 2 days they already call you and it's already ready, then your expectation is not only fulfilled, but I'm searching for the right word, it's exceeded. The company, the service is exceeding the expectation. And that leaves a positive emotion, that leaves a positive impression. And that's the thing you should be aiming for. So now back to the beginning of the video. Why not make thumbnails? The idea was, if I would create thumbnails, that also is just a process that I would be training, of course, and maybe this is an essential part of video producing. But the idea was, if somebody watched my videos where the thumbnail was just me, like this, for the whole time, and maybe the best thumbnail, I didn't even choose thumbnails myself. Basically, out of the 3 options YouTube gives you regarding the long videos, I just choose the shortest one. On the short videos option, it's easier because TikTok, for example, provides you with a tool where you easily can search through the video, scroll through the video, and search for the best short clip in the video that actually is then the loop that is displayed on your feed, and also the thumbnail. So one of these pictures is actually then the thumbnail. And I didn't make thumbnails, so I tried experimentally on one channel to create a few thumbnails. I don't really have data, or I cannot really statistically say that this actually increased the views, but what I realized is, by creating these thumbnails, of course I'm in the beginning of the process, but what I'm realizing is that it takes also just a lot of time I could have otherwise invested in recording videos, in recording more content instead of trying to optimize the delivery of the content. And that's the general idea. Trying to keep the content raw instead of editing it down, and basically the content is in the middle. And all the processes that would optimize the content, like searching for better keywords, or searching for a better title, or searching for better thumbnail, or creating a better thumbnail, or maybe spending or researching a better camera and things like these are all things that keep you from producing more content, because every unit of time you invest in one of these other processes that only are targeted towards or center around this core of content. are only processes that take away time. And that's the reason I didn't do thumbnails apart from this experiment on this channel until now. Is it working? Not at all. And here is now the big learning I maybe had to make, and I'm still making. So the idea is, the more you create, so you get the idea. I don't have to summarize the idea again, I think. The idea is, I still am doing it because I mentioned it. So the idea is to increase the quality of my delivery, of my presentation, of my performance, and therefore increasing the quality over time of the videos. So now, here's the problem. The problem was, one of my assumptions was that in maybe 2 years, 3 years, 5 years time, video platforms would essentially morph or switch towards a model where you would just automatically have all videos play. And in this scenario, that is already the present, that is already there on short video platforms, YouTube Shorts, TikTok, and also Facebook Reels and Instagram Reels, the thumbnail becomes much less important because people are not on the website and then choosing out of this catalog of, oh, okay, this looks good, this looks good. And this means there is no comparison in between these videos, but the comparison is actually made not between the thumbnails of a video, but in between the actual first seconds of a video. If you scroll through TikTok, you watch the first second, the first 3 seconds, and then you go on. So the first 3 seconds of the video itself are the criteria or the variable that determines or controls how much people actually watch your videos. And with my whole process, also with the process of recording these videos in long format, I am betting on a few different things. The first one is increasing my performance over time, or betting on increasing my performance over time. The second one is that video platforms eventually will move to a system that has a vertical style swipe feed that is completely automated by an algorithm, and the only thing you do is this, swiping. Why is this so? Why would I even think so? Because I think, and this also not really what data suggests, but what many people analyzing this space suggest, is that the retention rates and the general watch time of a person watching on TikTok, so basically how captivated, or you could also say addicting, of course that's a negative aspect of whole social media and also content on social media, the more addicting something is, the more people will watch. And this is also a factor that pushed me into the direction of not making my content more addicting. But I actually wanted just to record me talking, because that's something that is most to the real world. Another factor I bet on is the fact that people would actually be interested in these very long, not conversations, because in these videos I talk alone. Maybe in the future I plan to, or an idea is, so I already have one channel where I do a podcast with somebody else, with a friend of mine. But the idea is also, so these are already long form conversations, but the idea here is that that there are people interested in listening to one person speaking their thoughts, basically, sometimes with a script, sometimes with key points, sometimes without, for long periods of time. And again, the main thing that determines if a person is actually interested in what I'm saying is how interesting I am making it, how I am performing. So we have a few key points. First, YouTube would basically transform into a long-form version of TikTok. TikTok is already now transforming into a long-term version of TikTok. They already offer now 3-minute video. So first they were 15 seconds, then 30 seconds, then 60 seconds, then 2 minutes or 3 minutes, and now 5 minutes. And now you can already upload 10-minute video on TikTok. So basically, the normal style YouTube videos that aim for 10 minutes because of the multiple ad inserts you can do in 10 minutes versus if you are below 10 minutes, you cannot, at least that was in the past the situation. So if you then have a video feed in the future that is displaying also these long format videos in a vertical feed, then I would kind of win. If all these assumptions I made actually turn out to be kind of a good strategic decisions, vertical video talking video. Another side effect is of course, I just began a sentence and I didn't finish the sentence. If these assumptions turn out to be true, then it's good for me. Then my strategy turns out to be a good strategy. Another side effect is the fact that if you listen to me over 15 minutes, compared to a 2-minute video or a 5-minute or a 10-minute video that is edited down, then I become much more important. So basically, I am creating a brand that is surrounded around me, which is a byproduct. And of course, this could also be an egoistic decision or a decision in order to seek out self-confirmation, in order to get as much self-confirmation as possible from the world. But that's just a side effect. I didn't necessarily intend this to go into one or the other direction. So now, if all those assumptions hold true, then maybe there is a world where I wouldn't need thumbnails anymore. The problem now, that's basically the last part of the video. The problem is just that currently YouTube is not TikTok. Currently YouTube is not long-form TikTok. And this means that on YouTube, the way it works these days is by 2 ways. So the way people discover your videos are, first of all, there are two layers that each have 2 sub-layers basically. The first one is that people either click on a video, that's the first one. So basically the thumbnail is still the main determining factor if people click on your video. The thumbnail combined with the title, obviously. Because that's what people see on mobile and also on the web version of YouTube. And the second one is the auto recommendation thing in YouTube. So basically keep playing videos. That's already kind of similar to TikTok, and that's a feature YouTube already has or had for many years, and that's already kind of very similar to the idea I had in mind for the future video platform. Also playing thing that with an algorithm that determines not only what is displayed on the selection you can select from, but automatically gives you the next video. So basically eliminates your decision to actually choose the video. And the second layer, so this was the first layer with 2 options. The second layer with 2 options is how people discover your videos. So, of course, these are kind of similar. But what I'm saying now is that YouTube is also the first option, a search engine. So people specifically search for something. And that's not so the case on TikTok anymore. If you go on TikTok, you don't necessarily search for trends. Of course, there is an explore feed similar to YouTube, similar to you selecting different ideas or different thumbnails, just like on TikTok, on these explore pages where you have the trend of the day or this trend or this trend or this trend, and then you click on the videos that are actually listed under this hashtag. But what I'm saying is YouTube on the one side is a search engine, and on the second side it's also, so this is the one side, the one aspect or the one way you could discover these videos, and the second way now is that you discover videos organically. By searching, by browsing through YouTube, by watching, which again ties very neatly into the first part we discussed. So now, why does my strategy not work? Because currently YouTube and also the other video platforms, Facebook video and also Instagram, are based on thumbnails and not based on the video itself, not based on previewing the video by the user scrolling through the feed or the For You page. And this means, for me, I am failing. My strategy is completely failing. I am basically not getting any views on any of the channels for these long format videos. The most amount of views I got for a video was 43. But at the same time, you have to keep in mind what I'm producing. What I'm producing is basically a video podcast of me talking about topics. And when I compare these to the actual podcasts I also produce, so I basically write blog articles, which I then turn by screen reading them and recording also the video on my phone, where I'm scrolling through the blog article. And these also don't get a huge amount of listening. But if I compare these on YouTube to these, so the type of videos, the very long type, often 25 minutes now, on YouTube compared to the podcast, then also I think it's kind of similar. Because 43 views, at least that's on one of my channels, on the Creating channel, what I got for one video, where where I basically said where the future of filming and the film industry will go into, and how it probably will democratize as technology makes it more and more accessible for many people to actually record high quality video and to tell their stories, and also maybe moving away from fiction and more into displaying and documenting reality. And this video got 43 views, and it's me talking for 1 hour into the camera, similar to this one here, just in the car, because I set up the whole thing in the car. And that's a strategy that is apparently right now not working. So I'm basically producing at this point in time podcasts for YouTube, video podcasts, and that could be the end of the video, but there is also one thing I want to mention, because that's also one benefit, you could say. If you record long format videos, and not specifically my kind of videos, the videos I just described in the last 25 minutes, but much more just long videos, then what you can do is increase your traffic. That's not really a positive or negative point of the whole thing, it's just a side effect. If you produce long format videos, then you can just upload these to TikTok and edit them with TikTok, or edit it also with a video editor and create clips out of these long format videos. And also, if in the future, at some point in time, you could actually outsource this and somebody else would create these clips for you, then that's just an additional benefit. You maybe wouldn't even need to create these short clips anymore organically by basically hitting record for 30 seconds, 15 seconds, and then stopping again and not having the video files. But maybe the only type of files you would produce also for shorts, so for short clips, would be the long format videos. And then, if they are good enough, you can just take one sentence, one point, and turn them into a short clip at any point in time. And that's why I chose to do these kind of videos. Why they are not doing well, at least what I think happens, or why they are not doing well. And that's why not doing thumbnails on YouTube just doesn't work at this point in time.